Hiya. If you've been watching our devotional videos, you will know that we are up to Acts chapter 27, the second to last chapter of the book. We are nearly there. And at this point, Paul has appealed to go and see the Roman emperor. And the Romans are a little bit confused about this because they're a little bit like, we're not sure we have a problem with you. This whole issue is between you and the Jews. It's them that's not happy with you. We don't really get it. But because as a Roman citizen, he has made this appeal that he wants his case to be brought before Caesar, that is what happens. So him and some other prisoners are put on a boat with a centurion, and off they're heading towards Rome to go and bring his case. But at the first point, they stop off at a place called Sidon, and there it says that the centurion, out of kindness to Paul, lets him go and hang out with his mates. I mean, like, seriously, Paul's meant to be a prisoner, but he's just allowed to, like, go see some friends, go and have tea with them. It says so that they could meet his needs. And it just makes me wonder how much of an impression Paul has made on this centurion already to be trusted that much. Anyway, he goes and he sees his friends and he comes back and gets on the boat ready to sail on. And the thing is, it is getting towards winter. And pretty soon, this chapter starts to look more like some sort of action adventure film than a story about an evangelist. It's like, oh, is this boat going to make it? Is it going to fall apart? Are they all going to have to jump overboard? Like, what's going to happen? And that's pretty much the story of most of Acts chapter 27. And so it gets to the point where there's this massive storm, and they're like, oh, should we stay in this port? But this port's not really safe. Should we try and make it to one round the corner? And Paul's like, no, you shouldn't. We'll all, like, the ship's not going to make it, but they try anyway. And they end up in this massive storm. There's like days where they don't even know if it's day or night, and it is pretty scary, and people are freaking out. But it gets to this point where Paul says, after they've gone a long time without food, all they've been doing is trying to stay afloat. And Paul stood up before them and said, men, you should have taken my advice not to sail from Crete. Then you would have spared yourselves this damage and loss. But now I urge you to keep up your courage, because not one of you will be lost. Only the ship will be destroyed. Last night, an angel of God, to whom I belong and whom I serve, stood beside me and said, do not be afraid, Paul. You must stand trial before Caesar. And God has graciously given you the lives of all who sail with you. So keep up your courage, for I have faith in God that it will happen just as he told me. Nevertheless, we must run aground on some island. So Paul's like able to say to all of these people on this boat, you do not need to panic. We're gonna be okay. We're all gonna live through this. It might be scary. The boat might fall apart. Like, it's not gonna be pretty, but we are gonna survive. And he's able to give them that encouragement. And so they carry on, and they get to a point where they think there's land, and then the sailors try to, like, leg it in the lifeboat and Paul spots this and points it out, and then the centurion's like, no, we need you, you're the ones who know how to work the boat, and, like, cuts off the lifeboat, so the lifeboats have gone. So they all stay together. And Paul says, come on, people, we need to sit down and eat, because you're going to need your strength. So they sit down and they have this meal together, and Paul gives thanks for the bread. He, like, prays a blessing over it. And it says that they're all encouraged. He's able to encourage them to eat and encourage them to have that strength and that belief that they are actually going to survive this. And then they get to this point where they're like, well, the boat, they start sailing towards this beach, and then they kind of run into this sandbar, and then, like, the boat's breaking up, and the soldiers like, what are we going to do? We've got these prisoners we need to, like, look after, but we're going to have to swim to shore. How does this work? Let's just kill all the prisoners. But the centurion's like, no, I want to keep Paul alive, so we're not going to kill the prisoners. Everybody just swim. And if you can't swim, grab a plank and float, and we're all going to head to the beach. And every one of them makes it to the beach alive, as promised by God. And I just wonder what it must have been like to be someone who didn't believe in God at that point, to see Paul's trust and his faith that God's got a plan and it's all going to be all right. I wonder what it was like to see Paul just trusting God. And we can see that it made people trust him. They saw his peace that he had in knowing God and knowing God's plan, and it made people trust him. And it made people feel encouraged to be around him and open to Paul just sharing that encouragement with them. And I wonder if that's our story. Are we trusting God at the moment? It can be hard, can't it? Like life still feels weird. But we can still talk to God about that and trust God in that and remember what his promises to us are. And as we do that, people see us as someone of peace, as someone who can be trusted, as someone that they can rely on, someone they can talk to, someone who will have their back, someone who tell the truth. And also as we do that, we will be people who encourage others. We will be people who people find it an encouragement to be around, as people see our faith in God, as they see the peace we have from knowing God and knowing his plans. People will be encouraged by that, and also they will want to know this Jesus for themselves through that. So if you don't have that trust in God, have a look into who he is and figure that out, and do get in touch with us if you want to know more about that. And if you do, start really thinking about how you share that. How do you be that person that people trust because you trust God? That person who is just an encouragement to be around. Ask God this week what he wants you to be doing, to be showing that trust in him and sharing that with other people, to be an encouragement and a blessing to them.